5:45 in the morning, I'm hearing FBI, FBI. For what? For what? What am I being arrested for? J6. What's the crime? He goes, we'll tell you later. I said, uh-oh, they're gonna kill him. You know he's a crackhead. Crackheads are unstable, yet you're putting him around to go do these deals all in China and Russia, all over, and Ukraine. So yeah, these guys are sick. They're sick and evil. No, shush. Don't say nothing. Don't be afraid. Trust me. Don't be afraid. Trust me. Go. Be bold. Be bold. Be bold. Be bold. Running regime at the time came and told him stop talking about it. He said no. 2 weeks later, they murdered him in a car crash. This whole thing, the race thing, is to shut you up and other people with your melanin skin from seeing wrong in general. The black community was the beta test group, guys. They were the group to now then put it in other communities. I don't need a man. That didn't start with white women. That started with black women.
You want to rock this hat? You want to ban our video right away? You
want to get it ban the video? Will it ban it? I don't think it bans it anymore. Not anymore. They don't do it anymore with the ban because people like Brandon Tatum, he's on there doing the hat. There's guys like the Cartier family, they start wearing the stuff. I wear this on Bryce's show too. I've been kind of, ever since the conviction, the 34 charges, I'm like, screw these people. I'm done being scared of like it being in LA and not wearing it. Like, no, screw you.
You wear it outside as well?
Oh, yeah. We went for a walk the other day with my wife and I, and I'm like.
What kind of reaction do you have?
Actually, recently, when I'm wearing it, people don't really say anything. But in the past, I've gotten some different reactions when I.
In the past, you mean 2018 or 2020?
No, past like 2 years ago.
2022.
Yeah, 2022 when I'd wear. I remember I wore it once, and in 21 actually I wore it, and I was driving. I was just chilling. I was actually in Santa Clarita, and I'm just chilling at a stoplight. I look over, and some guy's fat Hispanic cat just sitting there like. He looks over. He goes, "Man." What did he say? He goes, and I thought, he goes, "Man, you're wearing that hat. I thought you had a brain or something like that." I was like, "I got a big brain, man. You see the size of my head? Like, it's all good." He's like, "You're an idiot." I was like, "Lose some weight, fat boy." Like, it drove off laughing. I'm like, whatever, dude. But for the most part, when I've worn it, people haven't really said anything. No one's come up to me or anything. But I don't wear it all the time. And so now after the conviction, I'm like, I'm wearing it now. I'm like, say something.
That's your go-to hat.
Yeah. This is like, let's make it happen.
Let me give
But if you want me to take it off for the show,
no. Okay. I would never do that, bro. Yeah. Even if you had Biden-Harris 2024, I wouldn't do that.
I couldn't wear it. It would make my brain smaller.
Let me properly introduce you. So, Siaka Massaquoi.
Yes, sir.
Did I pronounce it correctly?
That was good.
Has been a Hollywood actor for over 15 years. During COVID lockdowns in 2020, Siaka saw all the chaos and lies being told by the mainstream media and started speaking out. He got involved by attending Trump rallies in Beverly Hills and supporting the California recall of Gavin Newsom. Amazing human being. Gavin Newsom.
Yes.
Thanks to a Freedom of Information Act request by Judicial Watch, Siaka found out he was on a secret list by the Secretary of State to censor him on social media. Like many Americans in 2021, Siaka was raided by the FBI for simply being in DC on January 6th. Up to now, his belongings have yet to be returned. It was the incredible violation of his rights and privacy in addition to a very clear call from God that convicted him to run for local office, recognizing that today is the day of the dutiful citizen once again. Siaka officially put his name in the hat for California State Assembly, District 43, just in the nick of time. He ran a great campaign, but unsurprisingly lost to his leftist competitor. Siaka has been beating the pavement ever since with features on PragerU, OAN, American Faith Network, Newsmax, the Babylon Bee podcast, and countless other credible media sources. I want to hear your story because the sentence, like many Americans in 2021, Siaka was raided by many Americans.
Yeah.
How many of them were raided by the FBI?
At this point, I think it's somewhere around about 2,000. About 2,500 people have been raided one way or the other by the FBI.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, either with being there on January 6th or connection to somebody from January 6th. So it's like. They've been going. I mean, we saw President Trump get raided.
Yeah.
That was after me. That was after a bunch of people. We saw just recently Alex Jones get raided. Roger Stone got raided a few years back. So
all the Trump guys
get raided. And now at the same time, all these Trump supporters are getting raided, especially us random people who there's some grandmas who were just taking selfies in the Capitol walked in. A retired pastor and a also retired 30 or 60-year vet, Army vet. He was raided. He had a flashbang tossed in his house where him and his son and his son's kids were at his grandkids, and they come and they grab this guy who, mind you, when he went in, he turned to a Capitol police officer, like, "Hey, do you know where the bathroom is?" The Capitol police officer walked him to the bathroom, where he stood in the bathroom line to get in, like it was a concert, and came out, took some pictures, left. They came at him like that. So a lot of people had their homes raided, and with me, and I don't know how many had the same similar case as mine, but with mine, it came in, it was just a search warrant, so it wasn't an arrest warrant. So they came in, took my stuff, and left. And so for 2 years,
and that was for the first time, and that was
Yep.
2021.
Yep.
And you got you had some problems with the FBI 2023, November.
November 30th. My wife and I were coming back. I did a movie with Daily Wire.
Yeah.
And we flew to Tennessee for the premiere of Lady Ballers, where you can watch on Daily Wire Plus. So as we were coming back at Burbank Airport, we land. My wife and a friend get off first. As soon as I put my foot on the tarmac, there was 4 agents and 4 airport police. They came and arrested me for January 6th.
Let's start from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a foreigner, obviously. So I came from Lithuania. And I believe there are a lot of people that are watching my podcast that are abroad, not from the US only, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of have no idea what happened on January 6th, and
Right.
especially what happened afterwards.
Right.
What is happening right now with all those people that were at the January 6th at the Capitol. So tell me your story. So you decided to go to January 6th because you thought that the elections weren't fair, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, it was twofold. It was to go and also to go support President Trump and just be around other Trump supporters. One of the things that was going on, especially from 2020 leading up there, was with the Beverly Hills rallies. That was the first time I was going consistently anywhere. You had a lot of people in the city of Los Angeles driving in from outside the city of Los Angeles to come to this place every Saturday just to fellowship.
Mhm.
Right? Because we know, like we talked before we get started, when wearing this hat, it's like everyone felt like afraid to express who they were. For 4 years, even after voting for Trump, I never even touched the hat like this, just because I knew, oh man, I'm in LA, I'm an actor, I know what's going to come with it. I got my first hat at a Trump rally in Vegas. We went to Vegas and they were giving out the hats, and I'm like, I'm wearing it,
And that was 2020.
That was 2020, and it was like such a moment to do it. And so people were getting together for that. For me, I went there to show my support. I wanted to show my support, and then also wanted to be part of history. I felt like this was a historical moment where the people were going to get together and have their voices heard, and we're going to see such a show of support for this president that at the very least, people can stop with the accusations. They can stop with the misinformation about who these voters and who these supporters are. They always say it's the same old white guys that didn't know. Like when we were in Beverly Hills, I got kicked off a project because somebody saw me at the Beverly Hills rallies, and everyone in the picture I was with were either Hispanic or Black. They're like, "We believe in supporting Black people. You're fired." And I was like, everyone in the picture is Black. Like, what are you talking about?
And that's Beverly Hills.
That was Beverly Hills. We had all types, man. It had by the weekend before the election in Beverly Hills, we had 10,000 people. We had there was a plane, a little single engine flying around with a banner that said Vietnamese for Trump. There was Dennis Prager was dancing over in the corner with some Jewish people going back and forth in their line. A live band. We had like the cholos show up with their button up, be like, "Yo, what's up, homie?" In their suits. They had like the homeboys from Compton. You had Israelis. You had Palestinians. You had everybody there.
You saw it with your own eyes.
I was there. I was living it. I ended up becoming kind of known because I would speak and do speeches and stuff there too. So I saw it grow from about 100 people. Or that's where I first met a guy named MAGA Hulk, Stephen Davis. I don't know if many know him, but check him out. As a big Black dude wearing MAGA stuff, so it goes by MAGA Hulk. That's where I first met him, and it was only like 100 of us to start, and it just kept growing. It kept growing every weekend to the point where, like I said, that weekend before, we were dancing in the streets. Like we had people who had like speakers on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Mhm.
And we're just it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever been a part of. Other actors, a couple actors would come up to me wearing their mask. They're like, "Hey, I'm an actor. I can't be seen here, but I
This
really support you. Yeah, I support everything you're doing." Because I started being loud about being an actor and being a Trump supporter. And so, people were enjoying it. It told me what they've been saying about places like Los Angeles is a lie. Like, this place isn't too blue to try. Chicago isn't too blue to try. New York isn't too blue to try. When I ran for office, I saw that. I ran for office, and I was walking in neighborhoods, in a neighborhood that I lived at this point for 6 years. And I knocked on doors, and 95% of the doors I knocked on were conservatives. And about maybe 90% of those were Christians. So I'm sitting there going, "Hey, I'm a conservative." "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you said Democrat, I would ask you to leave my property." That's what I heard in North Hollywood, in too blue to
no
try.
way.
That's hand to God. And so I'm sitting there. My wife and I are going, and it hit me, seeing the Trump rallies and seeing all these people come out. Me running my race itself and walking around the neighborhood, it told me we just don't show up. So I think most people are commercial liberals, and they don't really get it, because most people are apolitical, don't get it, but they'll side with what the populace is just showing. And if you have the populace run by a certain side, and it's like, you have a sign up there, you're driving by every day that says, guns are bad, and everyone's gonna be like, I guess guns are bad, not really understanding what it is. And so when I was able to see and knock on these doors, I had a lady, I knocked on her door like 1 week. Next week, we're walking the same neighborhood. She's walking with her kids, runs up. She goes, "Hey, I lost your flyer. Can I get another flyer?" Hispanic woman. She's like, "I hate what's going on in the schools. What can we do?" What I found out is, even on the left, they don't show up in the neighborhoods. So it's like prime for conservatism, for Republicans to just show up. Right? Like, these people are looking for the answers. And again, to continue to hit me, if you're in a neighborhood where crime is high, you're worried about your kid going and walking to school and back without getting either beat up, shot, or robbed, right? Stabbed to death, as we saw what happened with this 5-year-old recently. You're going to be willing to hear a different argument. You're looking to hear something different. You're actually looking for somebody to seem like they care. And that's what it seems like when a politician shows up. Then we see Trump go to the Bronx. What happened there? Go to New Jersey. What happened there? But yet, the prevailing statement that we would hear, and I heard growing up, is too blue to try.
Yeah.
To me, those have been those have been the barriers that have been set up by the establishment to go, no.
PSYOP.
Exactly. I personally think controlled opposition, so that we don't even look that direction. But I always counter with this: the left never said Texas was too red to try. They never said that Alabama, was too red. Georgia was too red. Arizona was too red. Nevada, no, they never said that. I wonder why they never said it, but we always say it about the other way around.
But prior to 2016, did you vote for Trump as well?
Oh, yeah. 2016 was when, my journey went from not only just voting for Obama in 2008, making phone calls for him. Me and my girlfriend at the time, at the phone call, we're making, "You gonna vote for Barack?" "Yeah," trying to guilt my little brother into it.
You were 20 something.
This was no, I'm 44 now, so it was in my 30s. Yeah, this was 38. So I was 38 years old at this time.
No, 2008.
Oh, sorry, 2008. Sorry, I'm all over the place.
2008.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, not 18. Yeah, I was in my 20s. That was 28. And there was that old adage: if you're young and not a liberal, you don't have a heart. But if you're older and still a liberal or not a conservative, you don't have a brain. So as I'm getting older, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to see these things. And I vote for Obama in 2008, and he has the House and Senate, and he's been talking about healthcare the whole time. The first thing he does when he gets in there is does the executive order about equal pay for women, which is already a law. It's already a law. So all he did was look at the show. Hey, look at us, pomp and circumstance, and I'm like, and that's just going to drive more division. Right? Because now you're just going, because you guys have been mistreated, and we've been hearing up at this point, toxic masculinity, all this stuff, right? So I saw him do that. Then he has the House and Senate. He doesn't even touch healthcare when he had the House and Senate those first 2 years. And I sat back and I go, oh, I see what he's going to do. He's not going to touch it. And then when they lose the House and Senate, he's going to try to do something. When he can't get it all the way through, he's going to blame the Republicans. Guess what happened? That's exactly what he did. And I was like, and then when you look at the details of Obamacare, he basically wrote it with the insurance company. So I was like, all right, I'm done. I was like, I'm done. I was just done with politics because this was the guy of change we can believe in, right? This is the guy that had people running in Grant Park and everyone was, we did it. We got past the racial stuff. Then you saw him talking about Trayvon Martin. While at the same time, he's quiet about Chicago, where his homie, Rahm Emanuel, who ran his campaign, was the mayor and shut down 50 schools the first year he got in 2010. He shut down 50 schools on the South Side. The year later, that area was more violent than New York and LA combined. The majority of black folks live there.
50 schools.
50 schools.
Why?
Because for budgetary reasons. That's what he said.
Chicago doesn't have enough money.
Illinois actually spends the most on per student than any other state. So for them to even say that was a lie. Because we also remember growing up and they talk about the gang prevention. Like, we need to give young kids something to do or they will turn to the streets.
Yes.
So when you shut down 50 schools, what do you then open up? The streets. And that's what they did. So Obama's talking about what's going on in Florida with one incident over here, saying if I had a son, he'd look like that. While over here, where his boy, Rahm Emanuel, is running, these kids, multiple kids that look like him are being killed every weekend. Just last weekend, there was 49 people shot, like 9 killed, a bunch of them, just last weekend.
Every weekend.
And he didn't say a word. He doesn't say a word about Chicago. So I'm looking at signing the thing for women. You turn around and you like don't even do anything about the healthcare you say you promised you're gonna do when you had both House and Senate, didn't have to worry about anything. Yeah. Blame it on the right when they do come in. And then you're making these statements about race where I'm like, if you're really worried about crime and really worried about black lives, we need to sit there and put a spotlight on what's going on in Chicago. Quiet crickets.
What do you think is the real reason why did they do that?
Because they're hateful racist. They're a racist.
Obama.
You look at Obama, yes. You look at the policy, the Democrats. They're the racists. They're the Klan. They were the slave owners. They have been the subjugators of this country the entire time. Their record shows it. They're the redliners. They're the ones. Look at Joe Biden from the war on drugs. He wrote that legislation for the '94 crime bill. He wrote that. So if we really look at this stuff, it's really been them. When you look at the Civil Rights Act, there are 4 Civil Rights Act three brought up leading up to the 4th one in '64. All 4 were written and brought up by Republicans. The '64 had the longest filibuster in American history. If some people don't know, filibuster is a chance for them to just speak to try to hold up the vote. Longest in American history done by Democrats. The only reason why they signed it was because the Republicans decided we'll give you guys the welfare state. So the welfare component that the left wanted, that's the only reason why they were able to then get it passed. The welfare component, as we've seen, started where we'll pay the mom to not be married to the husband. So we went from '64, where we were at 80+% married, the highest married rate in America, were the poor blacks who were, of course, racist, all this stuff that was going on against them, were still the strongest families, to then offering them money after '64. Now we have only about 7 to 9% grow up in a family with a mom and dad in the home.
7 to 9%
of black community. It's terrible.
Every 10th.
It's like, what does it say? It's like 1 out of 4 black women are married. That's 25% that are married. Like, that's terrible. That's terrible. We were the families. We were the strong families through slavery, strong families through Jim Crow and all this stuff they talk about was the worst time for black people. Why are our families stronger? And now they say it's a better time, but our families are the worst. So you watch, again, that everyone can look up what I've said.
But how can you be so racist? I mean, if you're black, how can you hate blacks? It's like George Soros hates Jewish.
Yeah, because the marketing and the money. You miseducate the people, you remove the men from the community, you can tell them anything. And you have women raising men. So
because they listen to you.
Because
you're one of them?
Well, no, because what happens is like this. You have women raising the boys. Those boys become emotional.
Yeah,
too emotional. Emotional men are dangerous.
Yeah.
Now you have these emotional men with, let's say, take Chicago. Emotional men or young boys being raised by women. They become too emotional. Now they're in an area where they can't even go to school. Then it passed different laws where you can't reprimand or correct these kids in school. So when they're having behavioral problems, you have to sit back and not touch them. These laws were passed by only one side. There's only one side that doesn't want to touch a black kid because of the historical blah, 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 blah. Leave him alone. Don't suspend him. You can't even grab the kid if they're in a fight beating the crap out of another kid.
But that's racism. If you
Because
can touch a black one, but you can touch a white one, or Asian, or a Mexican, that's racism.
Exactly.
That's true racism.
Exactly. But they cover, and then they pass these degenerate laws consistently by using black and brown as cover. Like they just passed a law a couple years ago, SB 2223 that I was running against, where up to 23 days after the death, or you could kill a baby up to 23 days after it's born, and there will be no questions.
Say that once again.
A baby, I'll say it like this: a baby can die. Let's just say that a baby can die up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 23 days after it's born, and there can be no questions asked. And if you want to investigate, you have to put a $10,000 bond to go investigate. In the bill, it also says you can't use the coroner's report as part of your investigation. So I'm like, but you know why they say that? Well, because disproportionately black and brown women have been brought on crimes because of accidental deaths with their children. But you can now kill, even like something can happen indiscriminately to this kid and we can't even look into it.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. Or put $10,000 bond up if you want to go see. So they're not only a death cult, but they are the racist. This is what they are. Their laws show it. So again, anyone wants to go look this up, man, they can look it up for themselves. Yeah, I know. That's
mind-bending.
They just passed a law, SB 1555, that schools don't have to tell parents if the kid wants to transition or whatever. They don't have to tell the parents. They just passed that.
They're just gonna feed them the pills?
Well, whatever. I don't know if they'll feel. Oh, yes, they can. Why? Because they passed the bill back in 2022, which unless that kids over 12, the parents don't get to know about their medical records unless the kid gives consent.
12-year-old.
12-year-old and up. So that's where we are now. So your kid, when he hits a certain age at 12, you guys have to let him sign his paperwork so you can see what the doctor talked to him about.
He doesn't give a shit about his medical record. He wants to play ball. That's it.
Exactly. Well, you better hope that he doesn't care too much, because how they've done it is they set it up where, and this is everything they push is anti-biblical. So they have the kids ruling over, because this is one of the curses that the Lord put down on the nation of Israel when they're being disobedient, is that your kids will subjugate you. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it right now.
So 2008, you vote for Obama. Mm-hmm. 2012, you don't vote for Obama.
Mm-mm. I didn't vote for anybody. I was like, nah, I'm done with this. They're all liars. Right? And I was
2012 from Republican Party?
It was no, it was Mitt Romney.
Oh, Mitt Romney.
And he's uniparty, so it was a shill. I'm sitting there. I remember watching the debate, and I'm like, dude, go. And then the following debate, and I think my experience in Hollywood and being an actor and seeing scripts and watching plays and seeing this stuff work out, I can spot performances a little more. And so I'm sitting there and I watched the first debate and I'm like, Brock, hit him on this, hit him on that. He didn't say anything. I'm like, that's weird. And then the following one, I'm like, watch, Mitt's going to be quiet. Brock's going to hit him. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm like, all right, man, whatever. And I just kind of turned off.
TV show.
Yeah, it was a television show that I just wasn't interested in anymore. And at the same time, 2013, then I got sober from alcohol. So I was like, all right, get my life back together, things going on. And in that time of sobriety, I was just really, that's when I really started turning away from like left and democratic ideas, because a lot of what I was taught was the system's against you, or old white guys. And in program, when you do your step work, you learn you're responsible for what's going on in your life, not something or someone else, right? So then I hit that point. I was starting getting closer to what I called a higher power, but God, and I started just kind of taking that journey. So for 19 months, I was sober. I went out for 5 because I thought I graduated, which is a big problem for people. Like, I figured it out, right?
Let's celebrate it.
Yeah, let's celebrate with some wine. I was with this woman, and for men, our biggest downfall, women. And so I had this woman that I was like, she's beautiful. She's a dancer. This is perfect, right? And we went on this romantic date at a park, and I bought a bottle of wine, that the wine she wanted on our first date, but she picked a different one that she had been thinking about. So we had wine and cheese. And I remember telling her, and this is the trick of the evil one, right? He'll give you a subtle lie to tell yourself so you can stay close. And he's like, and I would say, well, I can't drink now, but I never said I would never drink again. Right. So to me, it was always the situation was going to present itself in the future. Once I've cleaned up, that it will be okay again. And I decided this was this time. I decided it, right? Even though the facts on the table were telling me I shouldn't. Took that drink with her. She even gave me a look. I took that drink with her. A week later, we had broken up. I was drinking a half handle of whiskey again to fall asleep. It came back just like that. Fortunately enough, I was only out for 5 months. In that time, I was working for this company where they had Christian conservatives running the company, Scott and Kim. And we would travel. They would fly us out to work for Crest Oral-B for the dental convention. So we'd go to different cities and stuff. I didn't know at the time, but they were Christian conservatives. And then on the team, there was a mix of liberals and conservatives and Republicans. And so it was the first time in my life where I was around a lot of conservatives. And we were talking and it was connecting. And the wife and I used to debate hard. What's this? What's it? But we still love each other. And then I had an incident where I was, basically a drunk, and I was saying stuff to some of the friends that wasn't, fair or right. And 3 of them came up to me separately and was like, look, we're only saying this because we love you. Mm. And this time I could actually hear that, where before I got sober the first time, I couldn't hear it. It was just bad luck, bad timing. You don't get it. When I make it, then everything will be cool. This time was like, I heard them saying it, and I knew they loved me because when we were sober, we would, talk to each other, and it hit. Then the husband and wife called me a few days later after I got home. They're like, we got your back, whatever you need. So March 15th in 2016, I went back in the rooms. And on the 15th of every month since then, since March 15th, the wife has texted me or called me on the 15th of every month to say, keep going, good job. And so I'm seeing them support me like this in March. I'm watching the television saying, Trump's a joke. Like, he'd be out by June. And I'm like, why would they say that? They're trying to set something up in our minds. They're starting to already say things to try to get us to think certain things about this guy. I'm like, why would you do that? But at the same time, he goes on that first debate. This is what won me over. That first debate, he's taking out Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and everybody. Chris, pop, 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 pop. You guys suck.
Small hands.
Yeah, right? Small hands. And I'm like, whoa, he's doing it. Then he says something. Go back to the healthcare stuff we talked about with Obama. He brings it up, and the right's talking about, universal healthcare would destroy our country. No. Obamacare destroy our country. I'm like, okay, but where's the solution? Trump said there's a simple fix. Put it on the free market and let the market decide. I said, they're going to kill him. I was like, but I'm following this guy from now on, right? I was like, that's my guy. But then I started watching in that year how people who I worked with for that company, people who have been working for Scott and Kim for 9, 10 years, who've been in their weddings, who have seen their children born, started making statements about Trump supporters that they were the racist and worst people in the world, and obnoxious. And I'm sitting there thinking, you guys are just terrible. These people offer you work, pays you really good money to go and speak for maybe 25, 30 minutes at a time in Hawaii, in New York, in Chicago, in DC, in FS, and pay for your flight.
Those are
tyrants, terrible people, but they'll make these statements. And it started to disgust me about what the left's mentality actually turns to, because they really turn to obnoxious children. And I watched this thing happen to people who were good people, really good people. And all they did was they just follow what they believe in their heart from their belief in the Lord. Not from a belief in a man in Trump, but their Lord saying, this guy, because he doesn't want to kill babies. We'll start there. I saw how they reacted to him. I got such a disgusting taste in my mouth, and then you add on how people in Hollywood were talking. I just was looking at it like, something's off, man. These guys are crazy. What's going on? It made me lean even harder.
But what do you think triggered those guys on the left?
The media. The media. Because the media, Trump went from the #1 television show in the world to now the most racist guy ever. Trump went from being rapped about by 50 Cent, P. Diddy, Snoop Dogg, Cameron, like all these guys were rapping about Trump and wanting to be like Trump. Also, now he's the most racist. I went to a Snoop Dogg concert when Trump was president, and he's like, who's hung out, who's taking pictures of him. He was like, F Donald Trump, he's a racist. And then he's like, everyone, and everyone's singing F Donald Trump. And I'm like sitting
Snoop
there.
told that?
Snoop Dogg. I went to his concert, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm like looking at this going, what? Like, you guys, something else is going on when all of a sudden this is the worst guy to ever exist, when he's a New York liberal, Manhattan at that.
Yeah.
Initially, right? All of a sudden now he's the guy who was on the show NBC for about 10, 12 years, that #1 show.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now he's this. I started seeing everything that he would say and do. They go, oh, flip it and make it the worst. And I'm like, these guys are crazy. This is craziness. I can't be a part of this at all.
But he wasn't in the office, so they had no idea what he's going to do, whether he gets to the office or not.
That's how powerful media has become.
Yeah, but the left were so afraid of the idea of him
Just the
getting
idea.
to the Oval Office.
Because that's what they were sold. They were sold the idea of, for decades they were
No,
telling
I mean
us,
the puppet masters.
Yeah,
Why
well-
did they were so afraid?
I think because you look at who they attacked first. Truly, they attacked initially. After he won, they attacked General Flynn.
Yeah.
General Flynn was supposed to be the Secretary of State.
Yes.
General Flynn also was one of the major commanders during Afghanistan. General Flynn knows where, as they say, the bodies are buried. So General Flynn could not be a guy in charge. And so they went after him first with some trumped up, no pun intended, charges to say he lied to the FBI and then get him removed. And then they went after him in lawfare, where he went bankrupt at one point in time. They started to threaten his kids. General Flynn was going to drop a lot of bombs. Metaphorical bombs, that is, when it comes down to the truth. They needed to get him out of the way. Then some of these, I would say, uniparty members weaseled their way into this cabinet. And we just had a report recently how General Milley and a few other generals on January 6th alone said they weren't going to follow any of his orders. In most countries, that's called a coup.
That's treason.
That's treason. And that's what they said. And Nancy Pelosi, who denied his request, he goes, look, if you guys want these National Guards, you got it. She said, nope. Then a video comes out just recently. Just yesterday with her saying, I take full responsibility for not doing any of that stuff. But yet the January 6th committee said it was the other guy. We just saw a coup in this country. And the reason why they didn't want the National Guards there, because the National Guards would have stopped the operation they ran. The operation they ran was they wanted the chaos so that Congress wouldn't do the job of the people, which was bring that vote to the floor to question the election. That's what they didn't want. Because you had the National Guards there, they go, do-do-do-do-do. And then you have the people who, our nature is to respect law enforcement and the military. So those people wouldn't have been clashing with the National Guards. They would have been like, all right. Because you don't see that. Who do you see clash with police and all those stuff? One side of the fence, and it's not the guys that wear this hat. But they needed that, because even 15 minutes before Trump was done with the speech, because he came out late. I think Trump knew what was going on. He came out late. That's when things started happening, 15 minutes before his speech ended, at the Capitol. So most of us didn't even start to turn and walk till 15 minutes after stuff started happening. Stuff started happening, including doors being open from inside. Opened. Not doors being broken in, doors being open. There's video now out there of individuals, a guy walking up to a magnetized door, look up at the camera and go, this one. Who's he looking at? Who's he looking at that he goes like this and then the door's open?
But how did it happen that we see those footages?
Well, we're starting to see it now because it started with Kevin McCarthy, and then Mike Johnson now has been releasing videos. I mean, in this, I was right about one thing. January 6th was going to be a historical day. I didn't know it was going to be this. I didn't know it was going to be.
And it's not the end.
It's not.
It's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning on this stuff. And you see, like, Nancy Pelosi has a lot to answer for with just that statement alone.
Hear me out. So, if they let Trump win in 2020, that would be his second term.
In 2024,
yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
There are no other candidates.
Yes.
If the 2020 election didn't happen the way it did, no Vivek would appear on the stage in 2022, 2023. But now there's Vivek at minimum.
Yep. We have a little more of a farm league now, as benches they call it, which is something that I've noticed the Republican Party really struggles with. They struggle with having a bench where the left will be like, all right, hey, let's go to a bar and find a bartender. And then AOC now is in Congress. They'll go and recruit. I got recruited. I think it was like 2011, 2012. I was working at a bar in Sherman Oaks. And this one guy, he was in there and we would have great conversation. And I'll talk about the system, man. The system and capitalism. I still kind of have my Marxist, kind of leanings going on from what I was taught. And I'm like, man, the system, we need da-da-da. And he's like, you ever think about running for office? I was like, nah, man, I got too many skeletons, And I thought I was like, because I got like DU. Yeah, yeah, I know. And I hadn't killed anybody, you know what I mean? Like, that sounds hilarious. But and here's the thing, my skeleton was like, I got 2 DUIs back in college. So I was like, I don't want people to, You
ever sniffed a coke from a hooker's body?
No.
Or arguing like 20 grams or 24 grams of a heroin it is?
I never got that far yet in my so that's where I was thinking. And he literally said to me, he goes, man, we can get that taken care of. I was like, nah, I'm good though. I was like, I just want to be an actor. Then fast forward, AOC she was just a bartender and then I'm like, how did that?
But he didn't tell you he's from the left.
No, but what we talked about was all left-leaning pro stuff. I knew where he was because most people were in LA. Remember, you can lean and talk about certain things a certain way, and then openly people will talk a certain way. He was talking. Majority of the things we were talking about at the time catered. It even catered to the idea of I would say it's like soft communism. They call it democratic socialism. It was catering closer to that. And he was like, yeah. And he's like, no, we can get that cleared up. I'm like. It always stuck with me. And then it hit me harder when AOC got in and they were touting. She was a bartender to this, a bartender to this. I was like, I was a bartender. Whoa.
That's because she's smart. She cares for people.
Yeah.
In Bronx.
Imaginary people behind fences in the parking lot, huh?
Tax the rich.
Tax the rich.
You remember the dress?
Yeah.
$12,000?
Yeah.
Or $20,000?
She's got some answering about that too. And they come out and say, oh, if he gets back in, we'll go to jail. They know it's coming. It's coming.
You see, when you say tax the rich, can you just not wear this kind of an expensive dress? Can you? No. You can't do it?
No, they can't. Because that's all part of it. That's the elitist mentality. When you hit an elitist mentality, because we've been in a culture war through the history of mankind.
Yeah.
That's that's really what it comes down to. We've been like the haves against the have-nots, or I would say the elites against everyone else. To me, Seth Gruber says this from White Rose Resistance. All of this, though, is a proxy war for the spirit.
Yes.
Right? So when you have these people keeping us separate and telling us, oh, you got to do this. We saw with COVID, masks, 6 feet, do this. We come out and find out it's nothing. It was all just a test. They want to sit there and subjugate us. They can subjugate us. That means that you bow down. Trust the science. Trust the science.
Obey.
Now you're obeying and bowing down to man. That's what they want. So if you're not doing that, they just can't stand you. How dare you not listen to us? We are the ones. We are the intelligent ones. God, what God? But it's ultimately the same pride that Satan had when he fell. He wanted to be like the Most High. So that's where we're at. These people, it's all just trying to subjugate our souls. It's wild stuff.
Just don't wear the dress.
Just don't wear it.
wear one from the Target.
No, they can't. They can't, because at the same time, they're the ones that want these strict gun laws, but yet they have bodyguards with ARs on them.
Yeah. So
that tells you everything you need to know.
So you're the most powerful human being on planet Earth for 4 years, and you got a son who's a junkie.
Mm-hmm.
Just call him and tell him, don't do drugs. Can you not do this for 4 years only? We're going to be billionaires. Yeah. Just don't do that.
Well, here's the thing that's tough, and you look at this, and it speaks about this in the Bible. They can't help themselves.
Yes.
Like when they're going down the line of debauchery, like it's everything. When you start letting anything go like that, everything can then go. And so they continue to go down that path. And Hunter, for him, because their number one, to me, it was power and money that they focused on. Because you had this crackhead who ultimately, much they call him, what's his name, Fredo, like from the Godfather, who was the one that was the loose lips.
Yeah.
He was their Fredo. And so he'd go around, he's a crackhead. Crackheads are unstable. Yet you're putting him around to go do these deals all in China and Russia, all over, and Ukraine. It's like, if I know you're a liability, yet I still put you out there, you don't care about this thing. You just know you're so hungry for the power, you're so hungry for the money. You don't care. You're gonna find your way out there. You've seen Joe Biden stuff from back in when it was black and white, lying there, lie. So why would then we believe he'd all of a sudden turn around here?
What did he tell about the blacks? He didn't want it to turn into a jungle.
Racial jungle. Yeah, he's with his son. He's like, this guy's he's been like this for a long time. The media has been covering for him for a long time.
But people see that now. He said that, a racial jungle.
Yeah.
That's racism.
I said that on that first Beverly Hills rally when we were walking down Rodeo, and I had a bunch of black folks laughing. I'm like, right? But they'll call me names, like Coon, Uncle Tom. This guy can literally not only say this, but even worse, pass legislation that has locked up more black people than slavery. More black people have been locked up from Joe Biden than there were slaves, bro. Think about that.
But who are all those people? If they don't lock the criminals, who are those people that get locked in?
They're random kids that mess up. The 3-strike rule, that was Clinton, helped out with that. So soon you had a little piece of something when you had Kamala making sure that these men stay in jail even longer here in California alone with those policies.
Facts.
Those are facts on the ground. So when they ask who's the racist, I said it earlier, Democrats have been the racist. So I say, yes, there is systemic racism done by the Democrats. LBJ said we're going to have these niggers voting for us for over 200 years. We're 80 years in. We're 80 years in.
That's facts as well.
I didn't say it.
He said
it. I didn't say it. I'm just the mailman. You know what I mean? Like, anyone watching want to get, that can't be. Hey, okay, please. I wish this wasn't true. I'm not saying this because I'm like, it could be true. No, I wish this wasn't true, but I was lied to too. I fell for it as well. But you start to do some research, you start to look in on it, and you're like, oh, Republicans and conservatives have good ideas, but have terrible marketing. The left has terrible ideas and great marketing.
Yeah, but how many Republicans are just deported for the Uniparty? 80%? 90%?
I mean, I would say...
If it wasn't Donald,
yeah,
Republicans would be with the Democrats in the same bed.
I think Donald Trump, I said this to my big brother the other day, he was a man for this time. Because there's so many people, much like when I said about running for office right now, and when I'd go around and I saw this in the 2020 Trump rallies, people for so long have been inundated with the left mentality from television, films, music, billboards, everywhere you look, it's the left mentality. Schools are about 95 to 98% of the teachers there are all liberals. So human beings are they're scared creatures by nature. Revolutionary War, we only had 3% fight. So it tells me that we do need leadership to come and shake things up, or if somebody goes, I'm not going to put my neck out there. That's the nature, is to not put your neck out there. But to put your neck out there, and the Bible says it 365 times, be not afraid. Because I'm like, for every day of the year. God knew, man, we're going to be scared creatures. I got to remind them, don't be afraid. Trust me. Don't be afraid. Trust me. Go. Be bold. Be bold. Be bold. Be bold. Yet what do we do? And what the left talks about? Random white guy. Men want to destroy women. We don't tell the parents about the kid. Everything's about fear this, fear that, fear this. Only comes from one side. So I call them the death cult. So
yeah, but from time to time, some kind of Harvey Weinstein occurs, and we're like, yeah, this is a piece of shit, man.
Yeah, because even what they
white
do,
guy, piece of shit, man.
Yep, and what they do is then they use the plan that already been played out. They use the seasoning they put on the culture. Oh, old white guy told you. But don't look any further and see that he's been best friends with Oprah. Don't look any further and see that he's done this with so many of those women that came out and say, me too. You're Angelina Jolie, you're who's that one? Blake Lively, Gwyneth Paltrow. All these people that come up and say, me too, but they won't get back that money and opportunity that they took
the
from
Oscars.
Right? They didn't. Oh, they're there though. They're still there. They're still there. Hey, if it was so bad, why don't you give up that money? No, nothing. No, okay, yeah, me too. So and now they're letting him out. And we look into Oprah and we find out all those kids that in Haiti and in her place in Africa that have been assaulted. And the fact she's following these yoga gurus that are sitting there assaulting people. No, shush, shush, shush. Don't say nothing. In Hawaii, we can get into that, what happened in Maui after that. Oh, no, shush, shush, don't say nothing. Harvey Weinstein's a bad guy, and they quietly try to let him out now. So, yeah, these guys are sick. They're sick and evil. They're sick and evil people. And that's just, that's for how I see it. And I think we have to start speaking for what we see now. We can't be like, well, and both sides do, and they kind of ought. No, they're not. Both sides aren't trying to kill babies after they're born. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big difference, bro.
23 days.
It's a big difference, right? It's like there is no, the Republican side has their issues, but they're not trying to chop babies. They're not trying to chop kids up and lie to parents about it. In law.
But 23 days after the child is born, I believe that's even too much for the left.
Nope. They passed it. They passed it.
Yeah, but not the people passed it. The representatives.
The representative in a supermajority, which is a representative of where the people believe the people are. And the people don't really know because you sit there and you give them I would say like headline stories to move with, right? Like, Trump's racist or racism this and another racist that. You don't give them the details. They just say where the devil is in the details, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to give them that. You give the headline and then everyone's outraged. And then there you go. Then women are wearing pink hats and shirtless walking down the street just because a guy gets elected being like, freedom. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. What are you talking about? Indecency is freedom? This is so wild. It's so wild, man. And I talked to a sheriff and those laws where, they want to hide abortions and all that stuff from parents and medical records. Sheriff was like, do you know how many abusers take these young girls to the hospitals for them to get abortion? Now they just pass laws where they don't have to tell anybody.
You know what's crazy is if Donald Trump was... So I'm surprised they can't find anything on Trump.
I know, right?
He's 80 years old. He's a business mogul, right? Yeah. He had Mr. Universe. Mm-hmm. They can't find shit.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's actually one of those things that I'll be honest with you. They call him Teflon Don. I'm just like, wow, good for him.
That's impossible.
There must be something. They must have been planning this for a while. That's the only other thing I can think about because you knew they were going to come after. They come after everyone 100 miles per hour. He is the toxic masculinity they have been selling us from 2008 on. He came along at a perfect time for them. He's the old rich white guy who is toxic. Why? Listen to him say the thing about grabbing by the pee. Everyone see? I've even had guys. Listen to this. I played high school or college football. That was the first time I really learned what jersey chasers and groupies were about. I'm talking about one of the first times going to a bar in college, a girl walked by, grabbed my face, and stuck her tongue down my throat. These women were being tossed at you. And that was just in college, let alone having some real money in the NFL or anywhere else. Guys I was with, we used to go to school, all this stuff would go down. I'm talking to my friend the other day, and he's like, he said this, and that's just uncouth. I go, all of a sudden you forgot jersey chasers exist? He said, they let you. Not I take, they let you. There's multiple jersey chasers that had let me. Just like the star effers that you hear in Hollywood. Oh, you did. They'll let you. So all of a sudden I said to him, I go, all of a sudden now you just don't remember that? If we're talking to this guy and this guy, that your cousin, you just don't, you forget what that is? And I'm like, you're just getting all feminine, bro. Come on. Now you're switching your game up because you just don't like him because you know it's true. You know that stuff's true. And that's how you and I have talked together in the locker room. All of a sudden now it's a problem because the old white guy did it. Stop being a woman. Like, stop it. Like,
you got to know the context.
Yeah. It didn't matter. An illegal recording from 6 or 7 years before he was even running for office. They held on to that. And you were talking about how they hadn't found anything. That was the only thing they held on to just in case of something. And the something was him running for office. And then they go, oh, here you go. This is back in 2005. He said this quietly to somebody he thought was just friends talking. Oh, so he's the worst guy. But we kept him on TV to make money. What about all that money you guys made off this terrible human being? You're not going to return that, are you, NBC? So I should listen to you.
And CNN.
And CNN, all these guys.
2016 to 2020.
Oh, they made
Number one show because of him.
Because of him.
He was a
Because
funny dude.
he is a funny guy. He's like, he'll be up there for like hours just cracking jokes. And you know what? And it hurts me, right? Because like, I remember how they treated Clinton. And they made him like, come off like one of the coolest guys ever. And after 9/11, that a little bit after 9/11, they showed Bush in a better light, and our country came together. And it's like we had a chance in 2016, regardless of get behind a president that was going to push through a lot of this like cancel culture nonsense. And we're going to be able to laugh and joke again and not take things that seriously and get back that American like chest up that we need. And they said, nope, you can't bring back that masculinity. And people missed out on opportunities that laugh to relieve. When you laugh, you release that pressure.
Yeah.
You can't, they don't want you to release the pressure. They want you to keep you tight. Why? So they can go, oh, go down. And people are going, I can't go to school. He got elected. You're like, you can't go to school? Yale shut down classes and be like, you need to speak to a counselor. What? Like, oh my God. I lost a car in LA for 3 years and I was taking the bus and the train and getting home at like 4 a.m. with like crackheads all over it. I kept going to work. You telling me you can't go to school, to an Ivy League school, all of a sudden you can't do it? You can't go into work? Come on, people. That's a wrong direction.
Let's get back to January 6th.
Oh, yeah,
so
man.
you attend January 6th.
Yeah.
What do you do there?
So we're there. We went to the rally, and he was speaking and everything. And then we start walking. After he's like, now patriotically, and peacefully, go here, let your voices be heard. So
That's the tweet.
yeah, that's what he said, and he said it there too.
Oh, and
So we're leaving, and we're marching, and the friend and I, who I was there with a young lady, and we're talking to people, we're laughing, having a good time. We go back to the hotel, which is the Marriott right by the Freedom Plaza, which is about 20-some minute walk from where we were, because we were by the Washington Monument. So we go to the hotel, and we're, it's because it was cold out, and like at this point, from Beverly Hills rallies all the way here, I'm like, okay, I've done rallies. I'm not going to just stand out there with a sign anymore. I'm good. I got it. Right? I was here. I did my part by showing up. And so I turned on the TV and I was like, I was curious to see how the other side like presents what I just experienced as a warm, beautiful time. Of course, then, I didn't know any of the stuff was going down, but they're like, it's a somber moment and there was blood on the ground and the cops are trying to figure this out. It's like, she's lying. MSNBC lying. I'm like, I'm going to go find that camera person, stand behind the reporter and be like, no, that was my intent to go down there. So I start walking down from the hotel to the Capitol is about a half hour, about 35-minute walk. I'm walking down, seeing people meandering back. No one's like, yo, nothing. Everyone's just do. Mind you, this was the third time I was in DC for a Trump or Republican event. I went to a Blexit event before. Then I went to another Trump rally after that. And then now this is my third time. Every single time, everyone's just chilling. Everyone's just like, smiles, felt good. So I get closer. And as I'm walking, I asked, like, is it done? Everyone leaving? They're like, no, there's still people there. I was like, okay, let's keep walking. Actually bump into some friends from the Beverly Hills rally. We're like, oh, what's up? And we do an interview. This lady recognized us. I'm like, hey, can we interview? Like, great. By the end of the interview, they start singing the national anthem, and we're standing close to the scaffold where the American flag was hanging over. We start singing the national anthem. Then we're like, all right, let's walk up the scaffold and just kind of like see what's going on. That's really what it was. Let's see what's up. As we're walking up on the scaffold, I like kind of looked down, and people were like, I'll never forget this because it happened in Beverly Hills too, where they had this one guy grab two men, or he was like, let's go, and push the men forward. You're a man, I'm a man. Men don't do that. Real men don't do that. You say, let's go and follow me, as Jesus did. So that I noted that because in Beverly Hills, we had Antifa come show up one week, and then a few weeks later, they were dressed in all black and debating us. A few weeks later, the cops had put partitions up, and I saw a lot of those same Antifa dressed up in Trump outfits, dressed up in like pro-America, pro-Trump shirts on our side. And when that big Antifa group came with their, bike helmets and elbow guards and their big their poles and everything that came over on the other side, people were standing there screaming at them. Those guys who were Antifa, they were screaming at them too, getting our side riled up. I was like, and so when I saw that guy try to push, I'm like, I recognize that. You're trying to get people riled up for a reason. What are you doing? At that time in Beverly Hills, I got a microphone. I was like, we're not here for this. We got kids. We got old people. We got women here. Let's get out of here. Let's go on our march. That's all we're here to do. We're not here to fight people, like not in T-shirts. Like, that's crazy. And so I saw that. Somebody threw like the bear spray canister bag. It hit one of the cops in the head. And he was like, and they like backed it up. I'm like, okay. And I kept walking up. I started smelling the pepper spray. It was like kind of faint, like it had been there, but it was gone. Then I'm walking around, people just walking, just kind of moving around. Saw there was a line of cops still on the top level, but they were just standing there, not doing anything, kind of more like arm to arm like this. I walk around recording. I get to the doorway. There's a doorway over there. Somebody's like, hey, they're letting us in over here. So I was like, all right, let me go see. So we're kind of shuffling in like you're going to a concert or a football game or something. And we're shuffling in and we kind of get stopped at the doorway. And I'm like, so I kind of maneuver myself through and I kind of want to see what's going on here. And there are cops on this side here, cops. And they kind of were like, you can't go forward, but they didn't say anything. They were just standing there. So we weren't going forward. And then as I was getting a little closer in, one guy came up in all riot gear. He's like, we need you guys to go back that way. I was like, all right, sir. You see, we're being reasonable. Some guys talk to him here. I was like, sir, we're being reasonable. We're going to get people out of here. Remember, we're going to get it done. Hey, guys, go back the other way.
And you got this on tape.
All of this is on tape. All of this. Me recording it and someone else recording me doing all this stuff. I didn't know the other guy, that footage was out until, shout out to Dave Summerall with StopHate.com because they've been on top of all this footage from J6. So I turned and left. I walked out. Walked around the side. I walked to the window where they broke in, and I'm like, whoa, and they had the stickers up. And I saw that cop that got hit in the head. And on my video, I go, hey, man, I saw him get hit you in the head, man. You okay? That wasn't cool. He's like, and then I started joking with him a little bit. I turn and walk away, and those cops that were lined up earlier, I went and talked to them. I was like, guys, you guys are hiding behind masks. Like, people are just upset. Like, they just want to be heard. Why aren't we just talking? I was like, they're hiding. I was like, I'm not hiding. My name's Siaka Massaquoi. I'm not hiding. I said my name and everything. Turned. Walked out, was going to walk to leave, and I walk kind of towards the front of where the Capitol is. I see like people trying to scuffle with these cops who were standing there. A big dude comes and throws like the Trump supporter, the guys dressed up in Trump outfits. He throws him out of the way, gets the cop, and he throws him towards the cops, like, cut it out, right? And I'm like, all right. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'll leave. Started heading home, and I looked to the hotel, and I looked to the side and saw the cars there, and I chuckled, laughing. And I turned to somebody walking. I go, man, if this was a BLM ride, those cars would be on fire. And everyone starts laughing, and just went back to home. Didn't think anything of it. I also, when I was leaving, and this is important because it's in my file, as I'm leaving, I started to record. I wrote the first thing to my mom, I'm like, Mom, don't believe whatever they tell you. It's a lie. They're setting it up for a lie. Don't believe it. Second thing on Instagram, I was doing a video, and I was like, they're sitting there stopping us from walking in. Like, this is the people's house, this, that, and the other. So my assumption was we're allowed to be there, that the cops were stopping us. That was it. And I was trying to be online and be vocal and be very in your face about being there so that they wouldn't try to say that I was trying to plan something or do anything. Because I thought it was just like, look, I'm here. You're not going to say I did anything wrong. Like, I'm right here to see exactly what I did. I'm not wearing any riot gear or nothing. I had a T-shirt with like jacket and, because it was cold, and scarf and all that. So when I get home, then they start raiding people. They start arresting people. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, well, at least all I did was step in the doorway. I didn't do much else, right? Fast forward to June 10th of 21, and 5:45 in the morning, I'm hearing FBI, FBI. I'm like, what? At this point, I have 4-bedroom, and my best friend of 7, as we know since we were 17, I'm godfather to his sons at this time, they're 3 and 6. From the story he tells me, he's going to the bathroom that morning. He hears a bang on the door while they're sleeping, so he goes over, sees the guns, and he just puts his hands out. They grab him, boom, put him against the wall, guns to the back of his head and everything to cuff him up. The boys, his room, their window opens out right to the front door, so they're watching this happen to their dad. Then they open up, and I had a couple in the front room there. It was like he's on this side, had a couple over here. They get them, and now I'm hearing FBI, FBI. I'm like what? And then I think, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, there's no way. In my head, I'm like, there's no way they're coming after me like this. I open the door. For some reason, too, God told me to wear sweatpants that night. Usually I'm in underwear. And he told me to wear sweatpants. I put sweatpants on. I had no shoes, no shirt. I opened the door. Man, 2 agents turn ARs. FBI, hands in the air. I'm like, whoa, just don't shoot my dog. because my dog's like tripping out. They're like, friendly dog. And she runs through the house. Grab me. What is this about? Is it January 2nd? I want to talk to my lawyer. This is now okay. In a second, when we clear the house, I want to see the warrant. When we clear the house, I'm like, I know it. And then the guy's cuffed me up. He's taking me outside. The head agent, Chad Warren. He's taking me outside, and he's like, I'm like, I need to see the warrant. I want to talk to my lawyer. He's like, this is not an arrest, so it's okay. It's not that type of thing.
That's what the agent told you.
That's what the agent told me. And I'm like, okay, I want to see the warrant. Wait till we clear the house. Okay, so now they take me outside my house, outside my front gate, have me just, my chest against the little brick that the gate slides to, right? So I'm just standing there, cars all up and down the street. The only person that I knew that I could see was Bryson, the 8-year-old, or the 3-year-old, that they grab and they put it in the car. That's the only person I saw. I'm just like, what the heck's going on? I go back in the house, finally let me back in. They start to grab the stuff they were there for. The agents take me outside to let everyone, like my buddy could take the kids to their moms, and my other roommates who were moving out anyway could take the dog and go hang out for a while. So they're talking to me and they're trying to question me and they're asking me about, they're like, well, on Telegram, they had mentioned, this group you're in had mentioned carrying guns over state lines. Did you hear anything about that? I'm like, bro, have you been on Telegram? He's like, yeah. I'm like, if you miss one day and get back on, there are like 5,000 messages. I don't got time to read all that stuff. So no, I didn't see anything like that. He's like, okay, just so you know, those guys were indicted today. I was like, whoa. He goes, the things you should have saw them doing there. I'm like, look, from how I know them, I don't know them as those guys. I know them as really sweet guys. If they did something in there, I have no idea about that. But from who I know, they seem like sweet guys. That's it. Then he's like, they finally, and I'm talking about how this is in America, the fact that they're coming in here to somebody's home like this. I'm getting emotional. And by the end, they're like, finally give me the warrant. They gave me just the front page. Meaning they didn't give me the full description of the complaint you're supposed to have in a warrant and why and what they're there to get.
Mm-hmm.
On my dining room table, they just have all my stuff. They have my computer, my cell phone. They have some AA journals that I had. They have like some flash drives. And they took 2 of my MAGA hats.
Even the MAGA hats?
Even the MAGA hats. I was like, dude, let me get my hats, man. It was like, one of them was the first one I ever got in that August of 2020. He's like, oh, no, it's evidence because we saw you on CCTV wearing one. I'm like, wow. And so I got in contact with a lawyer afterwards. And he emailed them requesting the full warrant. The U.S. attorney's response was, your client doesn't deserve to know as of yet why we came. I have the email still. Said I didn't deserve to know why the government came into my home, guns drawn, and took my stuff. That's what they told me. And it was only when we said we will file a complaint that a week later, oh, here you go. Because we threatened to file a complaint. Like, that's how they were moving. So then we can fast forward. At this point, every time I fly, I have to go through extra security just to check who I am to get my ticket. Then I have to go to TSA. They search me up and down. They search my stuff in and out. Then when I get to the gate, they search me again. So I have to sit there and get searched 2 times when I'm going in there just to get on a plane. Now, let's say I have to hop on another flight, like I have to do a changeover. When I do that changeover, I get searched again. It's been going on now for 3 years.
Because you're in the system.
Because I'm in the system. And then they arrest me on January 30 or on November 30th. Turn around and guess what the charges were? So for raiding my house, holding my stuff for 2 years, me getting harassed every time I fly, they came back with 4 misdemeanors, process crimes. Misdemeanors. Something they could give $50 ticket. Here you go. See you later. You're done. Don't do it again.
Like what?
They gave me no, and 3 of them are knowing elements. Like I knew what I was doing was wrong. So knowingly trespassing in the Capitol in a restricted area, disorderly conduct in the Capitol, disorderly conduct in a restricted, and parading. I stood in that doorway for 71 seconds, and when told to leave, I left. That's parading? I got there and was in front of multiple police officers. No one told me to leave. I knowingly trespassed? There were no signs anywhere. But they waited and did 2 separate operations on me for misdemeanors. But I'm told at FBI training when they're going to Quantico, they're told not to. We don't even deal with misdemeanors. All of a sudden they do now. So everything they're doing, the whole move they've done against me and many others has been completely unconstitutional. Completely. And that's where we sit right now. And so now, we're fighting this in court.
In 2021, so I'm from Lithuania. That's a foreign USSR country.
Yep.
My native language is Russian, but I speak Russian and Lithuanian as well. That's because we were in the Soviet Union.
Right. You
I
have to know
speak
both.
Russian. Yeah. So you like it?
Great. Yeah, it's great. Good job.
So I speak Russian and I watch a lot of YouTube videos on Russian, etc. So I know what's going on in Russia. So in 2021, Alexei Navalny comes back to Russia from Germany where he was in the hospital. Once he gets to Russia, he gets arrested, and now in the following 2 to 3 days, there were a lot of people went to the streets protesting. After that, in the meantime, a lot of people were arrested, and afterwards, a few months later, 2, 3, 4, 6 months later, people got this notes from the police. You gotta get in. You gotta go to the police because of this, and that, and they were charged with some misdemeanor as well.
Right. Yeah.
6 months later, etc. So that's the same thing that happened after January 6th.
Yep.
And they say that Russia is ruled by a tyrant, which is true.
Yeah.
But you do the same thing here in the U.S.
Exactly.
That's
They do lawfare.
That's an upside world.
Yeah, but it's what the left has been trying to do, and the Uniparty has been trying to do for a long time.
Do you think they tried just to scare people?
Yeah, it's both. It's punishment too, because the punishment is the process. There's so many people, about 1,100 to close to 1,200, have either pled guilty or been found guilty. Part of the reason why is because who has an extra $70 to $100,000 to defend yourself for misdemeanors?
How much?
$100,000+. Right now, I've spent probably about $150,000 since I've been arrested just for my case.
Why it's so expensive?
Because it's the government, and you're going an uphill battle against the government. And these lawyers know, they're like, well, this is just what's going to cost to do this, and so that's the punishment.
But if you win, you're gonna get your money back?
No, you don't get money back. You just, if you win, if I get all the charges, dropped, then I at outside have a chance to go, for civil lawsuit against them. But no, you're just fighting. You're fighting for your name, and what they do is these people who, like, if they came and they got you, do you have an extra $100,000 to defend yourself against whatever they say you did, or do they go, look, man, we'll just say you did this thing, and then we'll recommend to the judge that you don't spend prison time, but this is what it can come with, just so you know, but we'll recommend less. Like, okay, but a lot of the judges, especially early on, even if the DA says, hey, little no jail time, great. 1 year in jail, $1,000 fine.
But
5 years probation. You're like, what?
But even if you don't get any time in jail, you're a convicted felon.
If you're if you're convicted of crime, yeah. So that's part of it. All that stuff is to go, don't you dare against us ever again.
Yeah,
don't do the thing that Thomas Jefferson, one of our founders, says what must happen for a citizenship when they feel like their government has gone too far. That we must rebel. That's one of the founders. And they're saying, don't you even question us. If you do, we'll come after you with the full force of the government and then charge you with some process crimes. Think about that.
What about 2023 when you got arrested at the airport?
So I get arrested at the airport. So I'm flying back from Tennessee and land. And as I'm walking off the plane, this agent comes up, female agent. She's like, Mr. Massaquoi? I'm like, yeah. She's like, please come with us. You're under arrest. And I'm like, what? 2 agents, boom, either side of me, 2 men. Wow. The guy on the left was kind of shaking. He's like, you can tell he's like, waiting for action. That type of thing. Yeah, you just tell. Like, I play football. I've done martial arts ever since I was 17. I could tell. And at the same time, I could also tell he's a punk, because those types of guys are also punks. And so we're sitting there, and he's like, I'm like, what am I being arrested for? The guy's like, I was like, no, you tell me. Tell me what I'm being arrested for. And then the fourth guy standing here, he's like, no stuff. He's like, the guy here goes, from J6. I go, I didn't do anything on J6. And then this guy is standing here. He's like, just don't talk about it. I go, he brought it up. I'm just messing with them in that sense. This guy was like, on this side was really chill. It was really calm. Guy in front's like, look, Siaka. He's like, look, we're trying not to embarrass you. I'm like, it's a little late. I'm on a tarmac. People getting off seeing this. He's like, look, we're trying to make it peaceful and calm. Let me just give you your stuff. I'll give it over to your wife. And then we're going, but you're going to have to spend a night in jail. You're being arrested, And I'm just like, for what? For what? What am I being arrested for? J6. What's the crime? He goes, we'll tell you later. So I get in the car. They take me over to Monterey Park Jail. In the car, I'm just like, it's the female who first came up to me, and then the guy who was on my right. And in the car, I'm just like railing. I'm like, this is bull, like you guys shouldn't do this. I can't believe you moved like this. You could have called me. I've sued the FBI for coming into my house back in 21. Anyway, a lawsuit was going on with that. Sued them for illegally spying. That lawsuit was filed that September. I'm like, you guys know who my lawyer is. You could at least reach out. I'm just railing. I go, but I know why you're doing it for the headlines, just like you did when I got raided. I knew exactly why you were doing that. You wanted to get a little spark. Oh, look, Netflix actor was raided again. Now his Netflix actor arrested. Got him. I knew that's what it's for. Except you guys could have come here because this is wrong. And the guy goes, he goes, would you have really shown up? I go, I'm vice chair of the LA GOP. I've been living in my house for 8+ years now. My wife is pregnant. She's due soon. Where the hell am I going to go? Of course I'm going to show up. And then he said, well, we didn't want you to be prepared. That's really what it was.
Prepared for what?
Exactly. I don't know. I have one, well, I don't want to say how many guns because, people mess with you, but I'm not sitting here with an armory. You know what I mean? It's not like
no one's going to mess with the FBI if you don't have artillery.
Yeah, like what are you going to do?
Chance. Like,
what are you
bam,
going to do?
Bam, you're done.
So it's like I'm sitting there. I mean, you guys, they also have 4 airport police there. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything crazy. What? Are you guys stupid? I have something to live for. I'm not part of the death cult. I'm not going to go for death first. I'm going to go for life because that's what God wants us to be. You know what I mean?
You told that?
No, but that's what I'm telling you here. But what I did tell him, we get to the jail, and I'm sitting there in one of the cells as they're getting ready to do the process and all that stuff. And he comes with the paper. He goes, okay, this is what you're charged for with. And he's like, this, blah, 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 misdemeanor. I'm like, y'all did all this for misdemeanors? And he's like, well, that's just how they have us do, man. We're just doing our jobs. I'm like, yeah, so were the Nazis. And so then I'm rambling on. I'm like, well, what? God saved my life. And I start talking about God in some way. And we're like, God saved my life. And I turned, I was like, you guys religious? And the woman's like, oh, no, I'm not. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm a Catholic. I'm like, oh. I was like, so are you like most Catholics or have you read the Bible? And he's like,
oh, man.
he goes, oh, come on, man. I'm like, oh, I mean, have you read the Bible? He goes, no. I go, well, what do you mean? You come on, man. Like, that's.
He really said that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, no. I was like, well, you should get in it, man. I was like, start with Romans 1 or start with Romans. And if you don't see that this is where we are now, then I can't help you. And then then I go back to Matthew and read all the way through. And it was beautiful, though, because that night after I got it put in my jumpsuit, I was in the jail cells all by myself because there was really no one there except for the jailer and one other drunk guy in a whole nother cell. And I do a little workout to get me tired, and I do the Lord's Prayer over and over. And when I was doing so loud, the jailer actually closed the door that led into the jail, to that jail area. And she comes back in later. She's like, hey, do you want anything to read? I was like, a Bible if you got it. And she's like, we'll see. She came back with the Bible and fell asleep reading the Bible that night in jail. I was like, all right, God's looking after me, and like I'm gonna just lean into you, especially in these hard times, because what else can I do? I'm not Superman. I can't rip the doors open myself. It's like it's gonna be up on you, Lord.
But they arrested you just for the same thing that they raided you in 2021.
Well, they didn't say when they raided me they were raiding me for any of those things.
Yeah, but 2 years have passed. 2.5 years.
2.5 years passed. So they had 2.5 years with my equipment, with my stuff, probably listening and following and all this stuff. Every time I flew, knew exactly where I was. Nothing.
They're doing this for you to have the disturbia.
Exactly.
You to be paranoid. Like,
yeah, but I was like,
if this didn't happen yesterday, it's not going to happen in 2 years. Yeah. But you know that it can happen in 5 years.
Yes. And the thing that was happening was I was flourishing. All right, I went from being canceled from Hollywood to then starting to do jobs, working with Babylon Bee, and we're doing things like California Moved to Texas, which gets like 50 million views. I started doing jobs with Daily Wire. Like I'm doing jobs and trying to build my career back up. I'm flourishing. I'm not sitting there hiding in the corner afraid. Start to flourish. And their arrest warrant was issued on November 15th. They waited 2 weeks to serve me when I was getting off that plane so they could have the biggest splash so people could see it.
But can you imagine how many force do they have? They wait for 2 weeks. They know exactly where you are. They go to the airport.
They wait till I left and then came. I'm so dangerous. They let me fly away, then got me when I flew back. And every single one of the times of the arrest and the raid, they get bonuses. That's why a lot of these guys do it.
No way.
Oh, yeah. That's budget. So then the budget that goes to Congress and like, look, our budget. We have so many operations. We need more money. Oh, okay, here you go.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
No, because I don't fear them. They've already come and done what they're going to do. And the only other thing is death. And I've already died to the Lord. So I don't fear any man. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I trust Jesus. I've watched him from my hopeless, drunk life where I thought I didn't deserve anything to the government coming after me. It's like, what am I going to be afraid of them for? Like, at one point I was like, I'm going to go into a liquor store with a knife. And I was so down that I was like, I'll let the cops come and rush a cop so he can kill me because I don't have enough guts to stab myself. That's where I was at one point in my life.
Why?
Because I was a drunk.
Yeah, but why? Why were you drinking?
Depressed. I was just depressed.
Because of what?
Life wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. I wanted it to go. I thought it should be this way. It wasn't, because the world was against me. I was believing the lie of the enemy. So much so that I even thought about that. Now, to know the truth of the Lord, I'm going to be afraid of them. I feel sorry for them because they need their money for their sense of purpose. They need to start to go after Trump supporters to feel like they accomplished something. I just need to be obedient to the Lord. I just need to read his words and trust him and be not afraid. Yeah. I wouldn't be following his command if I was afraid of him. He saved my life too many times. And man, in jail, the next day when they were taking me to process at the marshal's office, when they put me in the jail cell, I was by myself. I dropped on my knees right away. Prayed. Thank you, Lord. Watch over me. Watch over Charlotte. Watch over my family. They put me back in my regular clothes, which happened to be this sweater that had a cross here that said Jesus saved on the back, right? And sweatpants. I was still in like what I was wearing from the airport. Then I go into the room to speak to my lawyer who wasn't there. It was like 11 o'clock. He wasn't there because he was flying from Florida, red eye. So I was talking to the clerk to see if she was asking me if I made enough money to see where my bail could be set. Then I'm just kind of sitting there and I knock on the door and the marshal comes by. I was like, yeah, I'm done. He's like, all right, give me a second. We're understaffed. I'm like, okay. So I'm just sitting there. Now they have me cuffed, wrist to my waist, to my ankles, like Hannibal Lecter. So everywhere I go, I'm shuffling around. Then my lawyer busts in. Hey, I'm like, oh man, Larry, I didn't think you were gonna make it. And he's like, yeah, I'm here. He's like, let you know we got a lawyer for California. You're gonna be fine. We're gonna take care of you and get back to your wife tonight. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. You know, I'm being all emotional. He leaves. I fall to my knees, brother, and as much as I can, put my hands up and I just sing. There's a song by Brandon Lake called Gratitude. And he goes, so I throw up my hands and I praise you again and again because all of that I have is a hallelujah. Hallelujah. That's it. Then we're letting us out. And when you go out, you put your face towards the wall, towards the wall, just chilling. I look over. There's this dude comes out. He's like 6'2" white guy, right? He has like tattoos from like, you see some in the hair, but he grew his hair out, neck down. I'm like, thick dude. If it was a prison movie and they were like, the Nazis are over there, he would be one of them, right? Cast in that. I was like, oh, geez. I was like, all right, just, hey, man, you're not here to prove nothing to nobody. Just in my head, I'm like, just be cool. So then we turn and they're going to take us to the courthouse. We have to go to an elevator, go in the van and go over. So as we turn to walk, the guy's like, I hear, hey, man, nice shirt. I'm like, with a shirt that has Jesus saved on the back. I go, oh, well, Jesus saved my life and blah, 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 Bible. And I'm reading and my wife and I, da, 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 da. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm reading the Bible. So we start talking. So it's like 5 of us are going. 2 of us are talking about God. We have 5 of us with two guards there. We're in the elevator talking about God. We get in the van. One of the other prisoners, he starts chiming about God. We start talking about books and everything. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So it's like we're glorifying the Lord, talking about like you get deeper and this is to get you past these points and that point since you're in your struggle. We get into the courthouse and we're walking to find the courtroom that we're going to be in. We get there. As we're going through, I knew my wife and my Laura's going to be there. We walk in and I'm the last guy. Everyone is the first 4 guys going, I'm the last guy. Come in and shuffle. I look over. I have like 15 people from church show up. Got another handful from like the LA GOP. And I don't even see my wife because it was so packed. I was like, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. I'm like, just keep it together, like get through. Go back into the other side and they put you in a holding cell until you're called out. So we're in that holding cell just talking. And that same big guy at one point before we're getting started, he bumps me. He's like, hey, man, can you pray for us real quick? I'm
No
like,
way.
yeah. I'm like, you, me? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right. So for everyone in there, we start praying, and, I start praying, and I'm like, I finish it up with, whether we are released, we get released or we're still in here, we know as long as we trust in Jesus Christ, we'll be okay. Amen. And then the first guy starts going. He comes back. He's like, wow, she's unreasonable. The judge, she's a bee. Then the second guy, third guy. Everyone's saying the same thing. The judge. Everyone's saying she's terrible. The guy who I talked to, the big white guy, he was like, yeah, hopefully I can get out. This is my parole hearing, but I stabbed a guy last year, so I don't know. I've been in jail, prison for 18 years. I'm with guys for 18 years, been in there for 10. That's who I'm standing around. He's asking me to pray for the group. So it was my turn, and the guy goes, everyone's like, man, we hope you get out, bro. Thumbs up, we hope you get out. Like that was the only one they were excited that I hope I got out. So I go and I'm shuffling through, I open the door. I'm like, here we go, open the door. And everyone there stands up, boom, in attention for me. I'm just like, the pastor who married us, buttoned up like, let's go, I got your back. My wife's in her all black dress with a little belly out. She has my wedding ring on her necklace, a cross necklace that her godmother gave her that she hadn't taken off since before I met her. She's holding her Bible. I walk up and she's like, let's go. And I'm just like, I give her a kiss. I turn around and face that. And people stayed standing for a while, and I could feel their support on me, bro. Then we go through the process. The magistrate's confused that, misdemeanors, probation, misdemeanors. What? That doesn't even make sense. The DA's like, I don't know what's going on. And then you have the probation be like, all right, we're going to do this and this. And this so worked out where they have simple things that I have to check in on. Nothing like every time I fly, I have to let them know where I'm going and give them like the information. I can't leave LA County without their letting them know what's going on. If I want to move anywhere, I got to petition the court. If I want to fly internationally, I got to petition I have to surrender my passport, so I can't go anywhere.
For how many years?
During this time, while we're going through the case. And so that's so I could stay here instead of having to go to DC and wait in DC for, in jail for them to do anything. So the judge grants me my release. I leave, getting ready to thinking I'm done. Let me tell you how the Lord continued to work. So I left. I was supposed to sign a piece of paper, and the DA is supposed to sign a piece of paper. Neither of us did. It was a Friday. Court's closing in 10 minutes. So they needed me to bring back. They're like, oh, he's gone. Too late. You're going to have to come back on Tuesday because that Monday was a holiday. And they're doing this to a lot of other people they arrested where they get them on a Thursday or Friday, and then they have them stuck for the weekend in jail. That's part of the punishment. All right. Oh, you stood up. You're going to spend some time in jail. So one of the women who was there, she works security at our church. Her name's Tish. She actually named her little sports car after me. She goes, I'll get him, and takes off to look for the DA. Finds him about to get in his car on his phone, about to leave. She grabs him, boom, brings him back. Mind you, I'm sitting in the van underneath the jailhouse being like, let's go. I'm ready to go. Thank you. God got me out of here. Let's go. Stressing out like, why is what's taking so long? She runs, grabs him. He's about to leave, brings him back. The clerk lets my lawyer sign in my behalf. Then boom, it's going. All of a sudden I see a guy come back. He's with papers. Like, oh, sorry for the delay. Let's go. No one says anything to me. I get processed that we go back. I get processed out, and I'm about to leave. I go to the lobby, and I just see my wife and my lawyer, and I'm like, oh, give her love and give him a good handshake. And we go outside, and everyone who was there start coming from one end, the other. The car pulls up. Who's going to pick us up? Everyone just gathers around me. Big hug. We do a prayer. We're crying and stuff, and get in the car. And if we hadn't, the Lord was so with us that Charlotte was not by herself until I returned. Where initially we were just going to take an Uber home from the airport, and she would have been by herself, spinning out, pregnant lady, 7 months pregnant, spinning out about what's going on with her husband. But God had her protected, just like he had me protected. And there's a story in the Bible about Paul and I think Timothy. They were just praising God in the jail, and the doors swung wide open.
Amen.
I had it happen. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild stuff. So am I afraid of them?
So where are you at right now?
So now we did our motion. Well, we motioned not, we pled not guilty. And we filed our motion of selective prosecution and of what I told you about that video earlier about talking about, well, they didn't let us in and they were stopping us. That was also facts of the case. So we had 2 motions to dismiss. Our motion to dismiss based on selective prosecution now, that's a very interesting one because in 2020, during the Summer of Love, when BLM came and they spray painted in DC Black Lives Matter, there's an ordinance that said you can't spray paint and graffiti. The mayor told the cops to stand down. 2 weeks later, a pro-life Christian conservative group came and they did the
same thing.
Yeah, they did the same thing, but with watercolor chalk that you can actually wash off with the rain. They got arrested. Fast forward to August of last year, the appellate court rules you can't do that. It's called the Frederick Douglass ruling. But you can't do that. You can't treat one group differently than the other, which of course they did. So what we did, and a lot of
3 years later.
3 years later. That's right, not 2, 3. So a lot of people who tried to file selective prosecution before were going Trump supporters during the Capitol and Black Lives Matter. The issue with that was they weren't on the restricted grounds. Black Lives Matter was running around everywhere else. They didn't go to at the White House. They didn't go on the Capitol. But you know who did? The Hamas protesters. They shut down the Capitol. We have the numbers now. Only about a handful that were there got held for a little bit and give $50 tickets and then sent. None of them were charged like I was.
They're not gonna pay the $50
if they do, but they weren't even charged like I was, or many of January 6th for the same thing. Same thing with the Kavanaugh protesters who came in to shut things down. A few of them were held, $50 fine, and then left. So right there, you see 2 different groups being treated differently, doing this exact same thing. Then you have Joe Biden's own words. When that speech where he's standing behind the red, all that stuff, they call it like the Darth Vader speech.
State of the Union.
Right. He was like, this is going to be the death knell for MAGA. We're going to come and get each and every one of you. DOJ says about a week later, or coming after everybody was there, whether you're standing on the grass or not. They verbally themselves said we're selectively going after one group over the other. So we filed that based on the appellate court's decision saying you can't do that. So hopefully now the judge does the right thing. It's the law.
Don't forget, rules are for thee, but not for me.
So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what moves. The state still has to respond, which they have 2 weeks to respond. Pretty much, I think the end of this week or something, they can respond on that. And we'll see what they say. I'll be surprised, but one of I think the best thing about my case is with a little notoriety, I've been able to raise money in order to defend myself.
$150,000.
Well, more than that. We got up to 175, and
you raised that money
so far. Yeah,
oh, wow.
We still need to get about 210 to 250 just to make sure we get over the finish line. So I know, but the beautiful thing about this case is that I think we have legs here, right? And so if we're able to, with this filing, get is dismissed or charges dropped, others can use this.
Yeah, that's a precedent.
Exactly. So, I always like to say if people want to support, they can go to defendsiaka.com. That's defend, SIAKA.com. And it's not just for me. It is for other people. Other people that people won't know. The grandma in Wyoming that got snatched, who? No one knows her. No one knows these other people. But fortunate enough, because I was able to be in part of projects that brought joy to others, people want to help. And that help is going to ultimately not just me, which is, to me, a beautiful thing. That's when you ask if I'm afraid, I look at this thing and it's like, it can help so many people. I'll be afraid not to help, And my wife was right there going, yo, you got to do this. Don't ever plead for anything. That's our legacy. That's your son's legacy. How can I say I committed a crime that I didn't commit? And having my wife there backing me up, seeing that little boy now that I have, I can tell him, stand up for truth, except for when they really show up. Like, what? And I can go back to my grandfather back in Liberia, where my family's from, who's the main pastor of the main church. My mom just told me this 2 years ago, that he used to speak about politics from the pulpit. The running regime at the time came and told him, stop talking about it. He said no. 2 weeks later, they murdered him in a car crash. So this has been part of my family, that the government will come after, but they stand boldly. I'm just doing what it's in my blood, really.
Amen. $200,000. How many lawyers do you have?
Two.
All
Great
those money
lawyers.
go to the lawyers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What do they do for 100,000 grand, 100 grand for?
I mean,
3 years?
they have to do a lot of different like when it comes down to studying cases, going to research, and look, that's part of the game of the law. The law is very
Expensive.
very expensive. That's why people give up. And then Joe Biden go on TV and say, "We've prosecuted over 1,100 of the MAGA. We did it." And everyone's like, "Well, they prosecuted and they're prosecuted, so of course they're bad." But you don't understand. Do you have over $100,000 to defend yourself if the government came after you and you believe you didn't do anything wrong? Most people don't. So then, of course, go back to where we first started. I pay attention to narrative. I pay attention to media. They're telling a certain story, but it's a false, fake story that they're making up based on the fact they have all of our tax dollars, all of our resources against what you have. That's it. Whatever you can muster up, you have to go against not only my money, but your money and the state and the other state and the rest of it. Like,
But they don't have God. God's with you.
of course. So to me, I go, we have the creator of everything. They're proxy right now for people way better than them that created that. They didn't even create the system that we're in.
Do you think it's going to an end?
Oh, of course, it has to come to an end. Some has to come to an end. Some has to break. I personally think Trump's going to win by a landslide. What he showed us in New York and New Jersey is that they say like, oh, Georgia's a swing state with 9-point difference, right? New York has a 9-point difference too, but the media can't say it's a swing state because they start saying that. People go, oh, there's a chance. No, it's too late. They're angering people left and right. There's open border policy. People are seeing it now.
But tell me one thing. Do you think they're just plain stupid? Because
Arrogance.
everything that they do, it doesn't help them.
Well, it's arrogance and pride. When you don't have God, man is the number one. And I am, right?
But it doesn't help you.
No.
You have a convicted felon, and a lot of guys from the left and gals switch to the right.
Yeah, because they have the Holy Spirit telling them to see truth. Jesus is truth. God's about truth. And whether you follow him or not, people start going towards truth. That's the thing that's been written on our hearts. It's the reason why they keep banging us over the head with their media. So to remind you, don't turn away, but remember, bad guy. If he's so bad, you don't need to do that. You don't need to be reminded fire's hot. You just know.
Yeah, they're saying that he's like a Hitler, but at the time, no one was saying that Hitler is a nightmare, is a horror.
They say he's a Hitler, and when he had power, he lets the states decide their own COVID policy. Wow, that's a pretty terrible fascist to me.
Hear me out, but let him win. Let him be in the office for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years only. That's it.
You can do
They're
a lot
afraid
in 4
of
years.
those 4 years. That
Yes. Because
honestly,
he knows where the bodies are buried.
But he didn't do shit from 2016 to 2020. What did he do exactly?
He drained the swamp.
How exactly?
Okay, so let me ask you this. A lot of people, I think, miss this. When he said drain the swamp, right? Everyone's like excited about it. When you have your sink, do you ever like fill water up in your sink and let your plates soak in the sink at all when you're doing dishes?
Yeah.
You ever had that, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you put your sink in and you have the water in there. When you drain it, do the plates go down the drain too?
No.
No. You get to really see all the plates you have to wash, right?
You want to tell me that he showed the Americans who the real evil is? Who's playing against them?
That's what
against
happens
the
when
people?
you drain something out. The things in there don't necessarily go down the drain. If they can't fit down the drain, if the drain's only this big, and you have a big nasty ball of crap, is that going to make it in? Or you can go, oh my God, we got to do some real work here. And you look around and everything is popping out now. Everything's coming in. Fauci, the Bidens, like Obama, everything's coming out.
But that happened after 2020.
Yeah, that was still his promise.
They did that, not Trump.
He did that.
No one knew what Nancy Pelosi was doing.
Well, yeah, but
she's an incredible investor.
But people knew before. When the FBI started coming after Flynn, that's the beginning. If you were seeing some of the signs, you're seeing the swamp creatures' heads start to pop up. That was all through those 4 years. All through those 4 years, you saw who the nasty people were. The media that we watched. The media that we sat there and watched over were the first ones we saw from the draining of the swamp, who kept saying he's the most racist, who would sit there and have him on and then stop. They would stop the video of him speaking because they didn't want the American people to hear from him. Those are swamp creatures. Now you know. MSNBC was MSDNC. Now you know. CNN, now you know. Everything. So now what is he promising next? We're going to get them. So the first part was to drain it. Second part is to clean it. Wow, I got to patent that one. That was pretty good. I just came up with that right now. So it's like I think people we have to really, words matter. And the government especially is very particular about what words they do and don't use. Anything you see on TV, FDR said a long time ago, you see it in politics, it's not done by accident. So you see him say drain the swamp. Now we know all the people in 2020, you say they did it because of what? Because of who?
Yeah, but they got Joe Biden elected.
And all the
81
stuff
million
and all
votes.
And we needed to see that too. In these last 4 years, for the people that I've seen now pay attention to elections.
Oh man, wow. And people turning to Christianity? Wow.
It wouldn't happen if we didn't drain the swamp so you can see the swamp creatures. We all had this idea of the swamp creatures. Now we're seeing it for real. We're seeing the FBI come after regular people. Because of who? Trump. Because of his promise to drain the swamp. So it's there. He made true on his promise. Mike Pence. We wouldn't know who Mike Pence was if he wasn't there. All these people, man. Like we gotta remember. Think people thought drain the swamp was something else, and it took away from them. I'm like, wait, that's not what happens when you drain something. When you drain something, you get to see what you got to do. A lot of people are stepping up now because of that.
What do you think is going to happen if Trump does not win?
To me, that's more speculation. I would say everybody move to a red state and get a bunch of guns, because I do believe that if something happens where, to me,
let's just say he's alive, he just loses the elections.
Honestly, I can't see that happening. I see too much momentum. If he honestly just loses, I think then the heavy-handedness of the government that we've just seen the last 4 years and the terrible policies, that is just the beginning.
The U.S. is going to turn
straight
into
like
Canada.
Venezuela. I'd say more like Venezuela, because people are going to be left. They're going to be left to have to fend for themselves while they're paying for non-citizens to legally live here. That's different than what Canada does. They're going to sit there and let people's businesses go into the ground and go bankrupt and struggle.
So U.S. is right here in the center. Mm-hmm. Up north, you've got really communist, socialist Trudeau.
Yeah.
For how many years?
I think he has another 2.
2 years. Yeah. Up down, you have a new socialist Mexican.
Oof. AOC of Mexico, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they both combine, they can destroy the U.S.
No, they can never do that.
Why not?
Because, not militarily. It would have to be complacent. It'd have to be
just with the open borders. If you start flying in immigrants to Canada and then letting them in from the north,
but the open borders are still based on what we do or don't do. That's still on us, and so they have to do that.
Yeah, but you don't do shit.
Not now.
Thousands every month.
But before with Trump, we'll shut down. Lowest crossings in like 20, 30 years. Then Joe comes, biggest crossing in American history. It's the policies. And we got to get our guys in there for the policies. We got to break up the centralized power in D.C. And I see it happening just in Hollywood. Hollywood now, a lot of people are leaving Hollywood. A lot of the industry, Sony's trying to start some in Vegas with Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson. A lot of these companies already have their corporate offices in Texas. So California is basically losing Hollywood. That's going to spread out the power that they have. You see things like Daily Wire are doing more projects. You see more projects in Texas and Florida and so on.
Angel Studios.
So that's a good thing. You need to decentralize the power. That's the same thing Trump's promising with the government. You decentralize where the power is, and you spread out the agencies throughout the country so that you go, okay, you in North Dakota who knows about environment, that's where the EPA will be. You guys will lead the way. The locals there will have a better understanding of certain policies, not bureaucrats that just stay in D.C. and fly from their place to D.C. and then they're insulated there.
When was the last time you watched a good Hollywood movie?
Well, I think I'm in the middle of watching one now, which is Dune 2. And I think it's pretty good. But before that, it was The Northman, which is kind of not really Hollywood.
That's not really
Yeah, no,
Hollywood.
yeah. But I'll say Dune 2. Dune 2.
It's like 1 to 2 movies a year.
If that. If that. I watch a lot of anime because they suck, because everything sucks. I'm like, I'll just do that. Or I'll watch conservative stuff that's been made. You know, I've watched the last good movie that I did watch that was made here that wasn't Dune 2 was Nefarious by Steve Dace over there at it's a really good movie. You should check it out. Nefarious.
What does it mean?
Nefarious is just means oh man, what does nefarious mean? It's this evil intent, right? And so ultimately, it's like C.S. Lewis wrote something called the Screw Tape Letters, and it's about letters from a demon. So this is about a demon trying to get some guy to write his book for him, his manifesto.
Oh wow!
Oh, it's fire. Yeah. Steve Dace, the guys over at The Blaze, they produced that. It's really good. It's really good. Chosen. If people haven't seen The Chosen with Angel, that's amazing.
But let's talk Hollywood. Hollywood is doomed, right?
Yeah, Hollywood's doomed, especially with the contracts they just did for the actors.
And once again, especially since 2020, something like switched in 2020. 2019, Marvel Studios were on the top billions, 2.5 billion for Avengers Part 1, Part 2, billions of dollars. Right now, every year like a 500 million, 600 million loss.
Down. Disney's lost like 2 to 3 billion since they bought Star Wars.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is what happens when you move away from storytelling, going to agenda-driven content. They've been pushing agenda. This most recent Star Wars is all like the Force is female, so everything's gonna be female and lesbian. And in Romans 1, everybody go check it out. I think it's 126. They will make sure. Let me get it right because it's so good. When I read this, I was like, how does everyone not know this? And so let's see here. We have. This is one of my favorite verses because they will change what is good and natural,
but they will go bankrupt.
Well, their arrogance. So it says, for that reason, Romans 1:26, for that reason, God gave them up to vile passions, for even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of a woman, burned in their lust for one another, men with men, committing what is shameful, and receiving themselves the penalty of their errors, which was due. And then it talks about these people doing that. Then they be filled with unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceitful, evil-mindedness, whisper, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, proud. This was written a long time ago.
Brother.
Yes.
I am from Lithuania. Baltic states. 99% of population of Lithuania are white dudes and gals, right? So we have no idea, historically, we have no idea what is racism. We have never had slaves, like never. Yeah. We used to enslave our own people.
Yeah, that's where we get the Slavics. That's where we get the word slaves from. The Slavs, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Slavs, S-L-A-V, slaves. That's where you're getting from, because so many Slavs used to become slaves.
Then we got enslaved by the communist Russians for 60 to 70 years almost. I want to talk to you about race and racism. Can you explain me, what is a civil rights act? What was that?
That was, as I've learned recently, that was a civil rights operation. The Civil Rights Act allowed them to bring in the welfare state. The idea was to try to dissuade individual or governmental policies that would, like Jim Crow, that would...
Jim Crow is segregation.
It was part of segregation.
Restaurant for whites and blacks.
Yeah. And so you can't put in laws in public areas like that. That was the core of the Civil Rights Act. The underlining issue of the Civil Rights Act was the welfare state being introduced. And the civil rights movement, led by MLK and those guys, a lot of them, MLK, he was a professed communist. A lot of these guys were communists. And so that it was under the guise of oppress and oppressor. When you have that mentality, that's the Marxist mentality, right? Only one group's the oppressor, one group's the oppressed. It doesn't matter anything else. So they had to push the idea of race. They actually started moving away from the word Negro. That's what they used to call black people here, Negro. But they had to move away so they can incorporate skin color, black, white, black, white. So everything became black after that. They started, the new left started to sell that idea of black and white on a consistent basis. And that's what really, to me, came out of the civil rights operation, was to change our world and our country into only looking at skin color. And so that's where we're sitting now.
So that was, the fourth act was 1964.
1964, the Civil Rights Act, yeah.
Lyndon Johnson.
Mm-hmm. But remember, they didn't let it pass unless they put in the Democrats' welfare policies in there, which started to pay women.
And how do they benefit from it? Just by destroying the black community?
Well,
they just hate you?
Well, the black community was a litmus test. The black community could use racism as a cover for you not to question what's happening. Shut up, you can't say nothing, you're white. Shut up, just stop. So when good people like the abolitionists who saw slavery and would literally kill slave owners and put their lives on the lines to stop this stuff. Now, because everyone's trying to be tolerant, you can't say nothing because we're black over here and the things that are happening in there, don't speak on it because years, da-da-da-da-da. That's it. It's a Teflon to back you away from it. Mm-hmm. And so they'll sit there and they'll use, the black community was the beta test group, guys. They were the group to now then put it in other communities. I don't need a man. That didn't start with white women. That started with black women. Now we hear white women saying the same thing. Unruly kids. That didn't start in the white community in that same way. It started in the black community because it was raised by women. Now you have more and more white women and Hispanic women. It actually goes black, Hispanic, white. That have raising single kids and they're feminizing. We got black communities run by black women and gay guys. Black Lives Matter, the organization, was started and ran by 3 fat lesbian women. Talking about break the patriarchy. That means break the fatherhood. They can use that as cover because if you say something, how dare you, you're not black, you can't say nothing. So they had unfettered access to a community and a whole swath of Americans in the belief that they're being nice and tolerant kept their mouth shut and this thing was allowed to go on. We've killed more of our babies than any other group before it even had the light of day. More of our babies were killed in abortions than black people during slavery, bro. You start looking at these numbers, you're like, who's the real racist? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and who sold those slaves in Congo back in the day?
Yeah, it was ancestors like my great grandfather, King Siaka Massaquoi, who sold slaves on the West Coast or West Africa.
Just from another tribe.
Yeah, he was a conqueror over there, and he sold his extra slaves. He didn't sell like, oh, I'm going to go work for you to go get slaves. He was like, wait, there's money in this like this? Okay, here's some extra ones because he still needed it for his own. So what do I owe in reparations? Because I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? So this whole thing, the race thing, is to shut you up and other people with your melanin skin from seeing wrong in general and trying to speak from that godly place of, hey, there's a right way and a wrong way. No, you can't speak because you're not the skin color. Shut up.
But if you say so, you're an Uncle Tom.
Exactly. Because you'd have the women raising these kids. So you raise angry young girls and feminine young boys. Who then those young boys?
But they're angry at what?
They're angry at the lie
they got knocked up and got left to.
Well, it's a lie. It's a lie they've been told. It's a lie they've been told over and over, and it's hard. It's hard being a single parent.
Of course it is.
Right. So they're being told, hey, you can do it yourself and don't need no man, while in a situation where they need men. But then they turn around and they're being told you don't need men. You're upset because your brain's it's kind of like, hey, 6 feet, wear a mask. I know you don't have any symptoms, but wear a mask. Take a shot. You can't go to work if you don't wear a mask. Take a shot. That pissed a lot of people off. Imagine that in the home. When you know you need a man and it's everything around you telling, girl, you can do it. Yeah, but you're the powerful. Yeah, hot girl summer. It's falling for, is when you move away from God, you fall for the world. And when they took money, that's the beginning of the end of the black community right there.
So that was just prior to, let's say, it's 1964. Prior to that, there was a strong community, strong families,
right?
A lot of kids.
Even being attacked by racist whites, even when we talk about Black Wall Street and the Tulsa Massacre and slavery and Jim Crow and lynching, even with all that, still stronger families than today. Yeah. Like, whoa, what happened?
Then black women got psyoped.
Yep.
And then the next generation had their kids, had their babies without men in the family.
And paid for it.
And got paid for that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
they got paid to be a single mom.
Yep.
If you had a male in the house or a husband,
Yep.
you didn't get paid.
You got less money. And you had these people coming to door, go, hey, if you just don't say the guy lives here, you get more money.
But on the one side, that's a good incentive, right? Like if you're single, we're gonna take care of you.
Yeah, that's the idea. But who's gonna take care of you?
Just you.
No, they're saying if you're single, who's the they that's gonna take care of them?
The government.
Yes.
Yeah, but by giving money, it's not taken care of.
But even that, this country was founded on the fact that government is evil.
The smaller, the better.
Yeah. So all they did was increase the size of government with the promise of a lie. They did the same thing with the women's rights movement. Did the same thing with the civil rights movement. It's like all these movements, even reparation stuff, that just created another bureaucracy to help people. But we need the building. Okay, let's do the building. We'll sit there and fill people up. We got to hire people. That's going to cost money. But before anyone sees a check, that all needs to be paid for. And if we don't have enough to then now start giving people money, guess what they're going to come back and do? We got to raise taxes because we need to fill this because we didn't get enough for the reparations.
But it's temporarily.
But that just increased the government more in the idea that they're going to help people. Ronald Reagan said it best that the most dangerous words you can hear from the government is, "Hi, I'm the government. We're here to help you." People fell for it, unfortunately.
Do you think they knew exactly what they were doing?
No, the people or the government?
The government.
Yeah. I know they do. There's documentation. Piven and Coward, who were Marxist, wanted to destroy the American economic system by inundating with welfare. They knew if they could open it up to the black community, that can help put the weight on top of it.
Who were those?
Piven and Coward.
Americans.
Yes. Psychologist, leftist. You can go in there. It initially started with the Great Society Act. So the Great Society Act with FDR brought over about 30-some% of black people who were all voting Republicans with the promise of work. And then
that's during the Great Depression.
The Depression, yep.
1929.
1930-something, because say FDR came in, like 36 or something like that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
when he came in, after all Coolidge, ruined everything. Or Hoover. Because of Hoovervilles. So yeah, it's evil is incremental. Right? They don't just come in right off the bat and go, boom, gotcha. They do after they believe they're, a certain far long enough, but they'll chip. They'll even give up this 4 years just to go, okay, we'll come back around.
But communism is like an infection. It infects people.
Exactly.
Because they want just power.
Let me ask you this. In American movies, how many movies have you seen about World War II and Hitler? Probably can't count, right? How many movies in America are you seeing about Stalin? About Mao? Exactly. How many TV shows do you see about communism?
None.
Exactly.
There's nothing to talk about.
Because if you don't see it, then as it's coming up, those people don't see that's what they're doing. And everyone on the communist side are yelling fascist. Why? Because that's what they've been told over and over and over and over. Fascism, 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 fascism. It's diabolical, bro. When you sit back, you're like, whoa, these guys are, they're going hard in the paint. You go in schools and they don't teach us about our Constitution or how our laws of the land work. They don't teach us about finance. And yet, so you have people growing up, going into college and taking debt that they're $100,000 because they don't understand money. You see them like running around upset about the electoral college, not understanding why it's in place, so that you don't have mob mentality. They don't get that. Why? Because they don't get taught our values here of what the country is. That is on purpose. If you dumb down the population, you can control them.
That's why I touched this topic with Bryce, because the US was created on purpose the way it was created. Mm-hmm. For instance, Lithuania, other countries, other European countries, there was almost no purpose of creating those states. And back then, in 18th century, there was a purpose to create a country that is way different than the others back in Europe.
First ever.
Yeah, that's an experiment. That's a project.
Yes.
That's a startup.
It's funny. I found this out. My wife looked up my last name and found more information about my family. The 3 times removed great-grandson of King Siaka, his name is Mamadou Massaquoi, first Liberian ambassador to Germany. He used to, in the late 1800s, he used to travel here in the United States, in full African garb to educational conferences, speaking about the greatness of this country based on its Christian values and how it's going to be greater than any country, any nation to pass and any nation to come unless they adopt Christian values. He wanted Liberia to be the Christian beacon in Africa, country in Africa. So this idea not only has been in my family for a while, but it's also been seen from others as what makes this place different and great.
100%. You have no idea what kind of influence the US has on the
know.
world.
Yeah.
I was watching the movies.
Yeah.
So the US for me is not LA or New York.
No.
LA is like Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Utah.
Yeah.
Those places.
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah.
The
Midwest.
freedom, the Eagles.
Yeah.
When you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Liberty. That's what US is. It's all about that.
And
it's about being brave and bold.
Yes. Instead of saying the unpopular thing.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's turning, man. It's turning. Like, it didn't take us, it wasn't overnight that people got to communism. But yet I do believe it's kind of like when I came to Christ, it took time to get better understanding. But when you know, you just know, and it turns on a dime. But you have to start going down that path of curiosity. And I've seen so many people now, average people run for office, average people get involved in a way I've never seen before.
They're just fed up with this bullshit.
It gives me hope. It really does. Because even from 2020 to 2022, more people got involved. From 2022 to today, there's more people involved than 2020 too.
Yeah.
So again, it tells me, I think we're in the right direction. They're struggling. They're throwing everything at the wall, and it's not sticking, especially to Trump. There's rulings that have been coming down that are for us right now, and I will finish with this because I do have to. It's 1:14. I got to talk to my lawyers. But I'll finish with this. In working with LAGOP, I've seen the biggest failure that we have in the people that want pro-freedom is we do not show up to vote. We can talk about the machines. We can talk about the mail-in ballots. We talk about all day left and right. Okay. But the numbers don't lie. And we don't show up. We don't show up. On off years, we show up an average of 12 to maybe 20%. The left shows up an average of 46 to 52%, regardless on if it's a presidential or midterm. Presidential will show up at like a 60 plus, but midterms will drop all the way down to 20. So the flag waving, we love this country, Jesus loving individuals, there's no excuse. Show up. We should be averaging 80 to 90%, and then we can complain about the cheating. The less numbers that show up, the easier to cheat. The more money, or more people to show up, the harder to cheat. As Trump says, let's make it too big to rig.
Amen, brother. I know you gotta go.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I'm gonna pray today for you, for your family.
Thank you.
Because man, the battle that you chose, you didn't actually choose it.
I always tell people I just want to be an actor. I just want to make people laugh and move them emotionally with my performance. But God put me here, and I have to obey.
God bless.
Yes.
God bless.
Thank you for having me, brother.